Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to another video. One's a little different because something's been on my mind. So I'm not sure if you saw that interview between Joe Rogan and Matt Walsh. There's like this 14-minute clip going on YouTube, and they're arguing about marriage and what is the purpose of marriage and the definition of marriage. And it's very interesting because Matt Walsh does a horrible job, and he's unable to kind of defend the conservative view. I mean, if you know me, you know that I don't care about either side and whatever, but I think it was a great opportunity for Matt Walsh to have talked about what marriage is, but he just did a horrible job, and he kind of left out the point that it's all about God, right? Allah is the one who sets these terms. The other mistake that I see the community making in response to this video is that they're trying to use this religious institution as some type of argument to say what marriage is all about. But I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I think that Islam came to dictate how you interact with people and things. Okay, so what do I mean? For example, eating existed since the beginning of humans. Using the washroom, having conjugal relationships with others, how you deal with people around you, that's been going on forever. But Islam came to teach us how to interface and interact with those individuals around us and in our life. So we have a certain way that we interact with food. We can eat certain things, we can't eat certain things. There's a certain way to interact with our parents. There's a certain way to interact with the opposite gender. There's a certain way to make a commitment. And so in that same way, just like marriage, quote unquote, or this union has existed, Islam came to change that and to define how that union is supposed to take place. So really what I wanted to talk about is the difference between a nikah and a marriage, right? Because a marriage is, we really don't know what it is, right? A marriage could be anything. Basically, according to the law of the land, how it is written right now, marriage is the licensure, solemnization, and registration of this license. And according to the law of the land, marriage is allowed between, anyone, everyone, same sex, different sex, doesn't matter. And that's the definition of marriage. That definition of marriage in the West has changed over time, right? Before, marriage was you own your wife. They take your last name, maybe they're chattel. Maybe other institutions, maybe other cultures in history had a different definition of what marriage was, and we see that kind of ebbing and flowing. But nikah is different. Nikah is very, defined. It is between a man and a woman of after puberty, right? Or maybe in other circumstances. And it's ijab and qubul. You're making an offer, there's an acceptance, there's mahr involved. And based off of this contract now, you're going to have certain responsibilities. That's how we define a nikah. And we have to kind of differentiate between marriage and nikah. The other issue is that, people try to argue the societal benefit of marriage. And I think another thing that Matt Walsh really lost out on was that society and governments and religions, or whatever you want to call it, have certain goals and certain objectives. We understand under Islamic law that we have many objectives. Joe Rogan's perspective and his objective in life is, the harm principle, that it doesn't harm anybody, go ahead with your desires. And that's the only thing that, that mind frame is really trying to protect. But as Muslims, we understand that there's many things that we're trying to protect. Family, iman, wealth, inheritance, lineage, all these different things that we're trying to promote. And now if we start to look at nikah in that perspective, now we can see why Islam is going to promote nikah. Why is it going to promote this relationship between man and woman, and have a system in where you interact on a sexual basis under this guideline of nikah. So I think we have to be very careful that if we're getting into these arguments, that we don't argue at the moral level, right? There's a lot of things that come before that. You have to argue ontologically and from the epistemology perspective. There's all these things, in morality and law and these types of things come at the bottom. You're gonna keep on going back and forth unless you establish from the top that God exists, Allah exists, that He gave us rules, that in His ultimate wisdom, marriage has been ordained. This is the parameters around marriage. And yes, it might have a positive impact, it may not, but obviously Allah's hikmah, his wisdom is beyond any of that. So I pray that shed some light on some of the issues that were discussed in that video. I thought it was a great video, a great discussion. I pray that other Muslims, real scholars, actually address this issue about marriage and nikah and the purpose of marriage, because I think it's very, very interesting. So until next time, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.